Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or whatever time you find yourself. I hope you're doing well. My name is Heather. This is a handmade journal where I'm documenting all of my sewing makes, and most recently I've been working on a 90-day wardrobe challenge where I am working towards sewing myself a handmade wardrobe. I'm about 2 months into that project and starting to see the finish line, but kind of wishing it wasn't ending so soon. So I will be extending that out and then coming up with some new plans or challenges for myself. Today I'd like to talk about a few things. I have 3 finished makes that I'd like to share. I'd also like to talk about some experimenting I did with different decoration methods. So with that, I experimented on this outfit I'm wearing here. I played around with a new type of needle that I haven't used before that gives a decorative look to different stitches. It's called a hemstitch, or it's a wing needle. And it's interesting. It looks like a little arrow, if you can see that here. Very wide with a pointy tip. And what it does, depending on the stitch you're using, on my particular sewing machine in the little instruction handbook, it indicated there were 4 different stitches that I could use with this type of needle. And it's supposed to, I think people are using it more for like creating heirloom type stitches. And when the needle goes into the fabric, it'll create a hole, kind of like eyelet. And so I experimented with it. I started out, so I was working on this jumpsuit here, and this is a linen, 100% linen. So I thought that was actually probably a really good, and it's a little like a mid-weight linen. And I thought that was probably a good way to experiment with this. This was actually a wearable muslin that I was working on. So if it didn't turn out, it was okay. I was really working towards, how to make this and the fit aspect of things. But because it was just a lot of just one color, I wanted to see if I could make it a little more interesting and kind of pretty it up. So first I had a thread that matched this almost perfectly. And I see if I can show this here to you. So I tried different stitches. It's probably a little hard to see because it matches so nicely. But I worked with, there's a daisy stitch, which is what I ended up using on this. And there were a couple other different styles. And then I ended up switching over. I had read somewhere that you should be using 100% cotton thread with this. I'm not totally sure why, or with this style of needle. And so I did switch over to that, but I didn't have an exact match for the fabric. So I experimented with some different coloring. So I'll show that to you here. This was like a kind of a brick red. And I don't know if you can see the little holes in it, but there are definitely holes in the fabric from where the needle pierced. This is the one I ended up going with. This particular thread, it was actually embroidery thread, so it was a 40 weight, which was a little lighter than the regular 100% cotton or polyester thread that I would normally use. And I think when I was doing it, I liked the contrast of it, but I didn't really, I could tell that the stitch definition wasn't quite accurate, I think because it was a little too lightweight. So I ended up then doing some more testing and doing some testing just with 100% cotton thread that was kind of a grayish color, like a little off-white or beige. And I think that ended up working. That's what I ended up using on this. Ended up working really well. But because I was able to just spend some time playing and testing, I felt very confident when I went in to actually work on do that stitching on the final garment that was going to turn out okay, or at least I had high hopes that it would turn out okay. Additionally, once I incorporated those stitches onto the garment, I thought, well, my sewing machine actually can do embroidery, and I have used that in the past. It's just been a couple of years since I did that, and I thought, well, why not try it again? So I ended up just using a stitch. There are some different embroidery patterns just built into the actual software within the sewing machine, and I ended up just using that just kind of out of laziness rather than trying to either go buy or make my own that I wanted to use on there. But I ended up choosing this one, and it actually, so this is on the linen, and I did it on a bigger piece where I added some, it's called a stabilizer. It's this embroidery, this fabric for stabilizing fabric when you're using an embroidery machine, and it gives it more rigidity, especially if I was using like a lightweight material. Because if you don't have, when you're doing embroidery, if you don't have the material very taut, it can cause a lot of wonkiness with the stitches. So I used that. This is actually I hadn't used this before, but I bought this a little while back, knowing I was going to try to do some more embroidery with some of my makes, and it dissolves in water, which is kind of cool. So I was reintroducing myself to the embroidery process with this machine, and then also using a new material here, and it worked out, I think, really well. So as you can see here, here's my test. So I ended up cutting this down just to kind of play with it, and I used this to place on the garment here to see kind of where I wanted to do the real embroidery on, and I dissolved the other material, the stabilizing material, in water, and it came right off. It was a little sticky, and there was a lot because I didn't cut it away from the bigger piece. So when I ended up embroidering on my garment here, I did cut it away first, and then just actually, I don't think I've dissolved it yet. I don't remember if I did that. No, it's still there. I'll do that later. Hot off the machine, I guess. I just finished this yesterday. Finished playing, adding the embroidery stitches and playing with it. So anyways, this particular pattern here, this design within the machine, it called for, I think it was 4 different colors, because there were the leaves and then there's a couple different flowers going on. But I didn't want to do a bunch of colors with it. I just wanted to do one color. I thought that would be really elegant with this garment here, and I think it turned out really well. So I'll show you what I did. I did the little daisy stitch with the hemstitch needle just along here, and then along the hem of the sleeves. And I didn't do the back of the garment because I didn't think you won't really see that so much, especially if I wear my hair down like this. And then I was like, well, it's kind of plain, and I may still add more later. I just thought, for the purposes of right now, just trying this out. So I just did the little design on each sleeve here. I do like the idea of adding some more just kind of individual flowers on the sleeve, kind of dotted around. So I may go back and do that. It would be easy enough to do. I think ultimately, if I do plan to do embroidery on a garment in the future, I would try to do it before I actually sew up the garment. I haven't looked into this or researched this at all, but I think the better way to go would be to draw the pattern piece onto the fabric, then hoop it, figure out where the placement of the embroidery design would be, put it on the machine, do it that way, and then sew the garment up after that's all done. Because it was a little difficult. I mean, this is a pretty big sleeve, but it was a little difficult to get the smallest hoop that I had around it. And then when I was sewing or doing the embroidery on the machine, I had to kind of really clip different parts of the sleeve so it wouldn't get caught and accidentally embroidered in the machine, if that makes sense. So anyway, I thought this was a lot of fun. I have been tending to rush through making the garments, and I wanted to stop myself or slow down a little bit and just kind of just give myself some time and room to play around a little bit. And I have some other thoughts of different like garment or fabric decorating techniques that I've been thinking about trying, which would include actually painting on fabric. Apparently you can use acrylic paint, and if you use a particular medium, that kind of, it makes the paint more flexible. You can actually paint directly on the fabric, and it will wash and wear just fine. So I thought I would try that out at some point. I have a pink wrap skirt that I made earlier this year that I ended up, it was like a midi length. I ended up shortening it. One of the reasons why I shortened it was because I really didn't like the color, the color of the fabric, just the tone of it. For some reason, it wasn't vibing with me. But I thought if I had left it long and painted it, that might have been pretty interesting, or even do some embroidery on it. But yeah, I like doing this. I was very excited about it. I really, really enjoyed experimenting with the different stitches, the different needle, the embroidery, different colors of thread. And one thing I don't know if I mentioned, but on the embroidery design, I did use an embroidery weight thread, which is a 40 weight, and it is a little bit lighter, but I used just a regular black bobbin thread. Here's the back side of it for it. And I just used a regular universal needle for it. It worked just fine. I know that I could have, if I'd done some adjusting with the bobbin thread and the needle, it might have come out with better results. But I mean, I think it turned out pretty darn good for just kind of a somewhat quick little experiment. I will say testing first on scraps is definitely the way to go. In the past, sometimes I'll just rush in and do it on my, the garment that I've been working on, and then, with usually bad results. So testing's definitely is a good way to go, because you can just do whatever and just give yourself time to do that for experimenting. But I feel like I have a lot of fabric that I'm trying to get through that I'm not super crazy about, whether it's a solid like this with the color, but I think with the idea now that I can embellish it in some way, through these special stitches, that I can embellish it some way, through these special stitches or the embroidery, potentially painting, doing maybe applique. So doing something like this where I have a design that I've embroidered or cut out, and then doing applique on it. I like that idea. I did see a dress online that I thought looked really cool. It looked like, I think they're faux leather pieces, and that have been sewn onto the garment, and then part of that fabric has been cut away. I thought that looked really beautiful, and it's just a nice way to just really kind of raise up or enhance a more basic design. And as I've been going through this 90-day wardrobe challenge, I'm definitely kind of re-sewing or sewing multiples of certain patterns that I like or that I feel like suit me best. But I don't necessarily want all my garments to look like I went shopping at the same store in the same little clothing rack, and just bought a bunch of the same thing in different colors. I'd like them all to have, look a little different, but still suit me. So anyways, that was that. So next up, I have 3 finished makes to share. First up is this garment that I've been talking about. So this is the Friday Pattern Company Avenir Jumpsuit. So it's all one piece. It is a top attached to pants. And I used this burgundy 100% linen from my stash. I had made one pretty fatal mistake when I was cutting out the fabric, or cutting out the pattern pieces. So I use a projector for doing most of my pattern piece cutting now, but I have one big problem that I run into sometimes, and that is I sometimes accidentally cut the wrong size of some of the pieces. It's never all the pieces. It's always like one set or one pair of something, because I've accidentally zoomed out or zoomed in. It's usually zooming out. And so I'll cut them smaller. It would be nice if I would cut them bigger and then be able to like recut them after the fact. That never seems to happen. So in this one, I cut the 2 pant legs, the back ones, too small, and actually quite a bit smaller. And I barely had enough fabric actually to cut this whole thing out. I was originally intending to do the longer sleeves, but I think I only had about 2 yards of this. Actually, it probably was just 2 yards. And there's a longer sleeve option that ends up getting gathered here, at least per the pattern instructions. So I ended up shortening that. I mean, it was like a miracle. I had actually just like barely any fabric left, plus the fabric I used for the experimenting. So that was it. That's all I was going to end up with. So I was like, well, do I do a different fabric for the pants? Do I just completely cut out something else? I did think, and maybe I'll still do this, I'm not sure, but I thought what I could have done is taken the pants and kind of recut them into a skirt instead. But I didn't realize that I'd cut those 2 pant pieces wrong until I'd already finished the top, and I was like, oh, this is going quite nicely. It's going so quick, and oh, no issues yet. And then, when I went to match up the back and front pieces, that's when I discovered the issue. So here, let me show you this. So this jumpsuit, it's a very simple make. So there's elastic here, there's elastic channel on the top. That just goes all the way around. And then the sleeves, I think this is probably called more of a raglan sleeve, so that it's not like a normal sleeve where you're dropping it into an armhole. You're actually just attaching these larger pieces to the side and to the back here. And then, so doing an elastic channel up here, and you can adjust that however you need to. I think I was kind of debating. I think when I first tried on just the top of the elastic, I was like, it seems a little loose. But then I had read, I think it was in the instructions, that once you add on the pants, it helps weigh it down, so you might not want to actually go crazy with making it too small up there, if that makes sense. And then there's a waistband piece that you add to the top. Then you add the pants. There's pockets here, and I'll show you this back. So it's obviously very generously sized, and that's why I kept going with it. I thought that maybe it would fit well enough where I thought that maybe I could wear it. I'm actually, now that I'm wearing it, I've been wearing it for a little while today, and it's started to grow on me more. It doesn't feel as awkward as I thought. I'm still not sure. I feel like I've been avoiding making pants and I need to make some regular pairs of pants, but this was kind of a way of kind of getting into it. I have made pants before, but just elastic waist pants. I did that last year with a couple of seam work patterns, but I don't wear those pants. And I did make a pair of shorts as part of this 90-day wardrobe, handmade wardrobe challenge. And with the intention of those being like the muslin, a wearable muslin, for a pair of those pants later. So I think I probably should do that. I am open. If you have any suggestions for a good pair of pants that are not an elastic waist style of pant, but that are kind of easy to fit, especially considering I know my waist to hip ratio is generally a size or 2 different in most patterns that I've looked at, or pattern companies that I've looked at. So the pants that I am likely going to make are the Anna Allen Persephone pants. Those are the ones that I made the shorts out of. And I adjusted the fit when I was making the shorts, but I need to go back and adjust the pattern before I actually make them again. The one big challenge on those pants, I would say, as from a fit perspective, is that they do not have a side seam where you could, take in on the sides to help with the adjustment. They do have darts, and so I had ended up on the shorts adjusting the darts and then I had to adjust the waistband more because it was definitely too big. I think when I cut that pattern out, I didn't actually do any grading, which I should have done. I also did it in a stretch chambray material, and the pattern calls for a no stretch material, so I think I will try it. I do have some denim in my stash that I will probably try to do. Anyway, those, I like the idea of a high waist pant. They do not come with patch pockets, but I did add some patch pockets on the shorts. So anyway, I didn't mean to actually go off and talk about pants, but given that I was, working on this jumpsuit with the idea that I would start working on pants in the future soon, it's just been on my mind. So anyway, if you have any suggestions about pants that I could try, and if you've been watching some of my videos and kind of getting a feel for what I like, I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments, and I will seriously take a look at them. I have purchased other pants patterns, thinking I would make those, and I did try making, there's a closet core Pietra pants. They have an elastic waist in the back. I made, the first one I made, they were huge, and I was like, well, do I even try to make another pair of these, or try to alter what I had made, the wearable muslin, or just try the next size down, which is what I ended up making the next size down, and had some issues with cutting the wrong size of those pattern pieces. So that was kind of wonky. And so I was kind of like, and then when I was actually wearing them, I was like, I don't know if I actually like the silhouette of those for myself. And that's why I kind of think I need to just move beyond elastic waist pants and go with a regular waistband. Anyways, so that's something I am thinking about for the future. But these, I think ultimately given the issues, it turned out pretty nice. They were supposed to be quite a bit longer. I didn't actually want such a cropped leg for these, but because I'd cut the one set of pieces too small, they ended up, that's as long as I could go with it. So for the hem on these, I just did a simple serged hem and turned it up. Yeah, so I just serged it and then turned it up a half inch and sewed it, and that was, I think, nice and clean, pretty fine. So these have pockets, which is nice. I think I've already talked about it. I thought adding the other stitching here is really kind of elevated it quite a bit from being just kind of a sea of burgundy that was overwhelming my body to being something kind of interesting. So I think all in all, I'm happy with this. I'm not actually sure if I would make another one. I don't know if I kind of like this elastic center here. I do have two other ready-to-wear jumpsuits that I've had for a few years now that I do wear. One does have elastic waist, it's all black, but it has like a wrap style top. I like that. And I know that there's a really popular jumpsuit pattern that a lot of people have made that I like that jumpsuit, the ready-to-wear one, and I'm thinking I might end up going and making that other jumpsuit. The other one I have has a fitted waist with a belt, and it's sleeveless, made of heavier material, and that's very nice too. So the next make that I will share, I just finished probably less than an hour ago, and I was like, should I save this for my next video? It's like, nah, I'll share it. So this is the Mandy Boat Tee by Tessuti Patterns. It is a free pattern. I downloaded the pattern, a year or two ago, but this is the first time I've made it. And I have quite a bit of knit fabric in my stash that I was purchasing. Originally, I purchased intending to make exercise wear, and then when I got it, I'm like, I can't exercise in this. My sweat will be so obvious. So I still have not purchased, I don't think, the right type of fabric for workout wear yet. So I might not actually do any workout wear in the 90-day Handmade Wardrobe challenge, but maybe I will do that later on. But this fabric is really lovely. It is a bamboo jersey that I found off a store on Etsy. I bought 2 yards of a few different colors. So this is like a dusty rose or pink. The Mandy Boat Tee is free, which is awesome. I have actually downloaded a couple different Tessuti patterns and this is the first Tessuti pattern I made, but they were all free or free with instructions. And so I thought that was kind of nice, just something a little different. But it has, so it's a boat neck up here, the neck, and then I cut out the material one night, and when I started to actually go to sew it the next morning, it called for, so on the neckline, before you actually sew the front and back together, you actually just do a single fold at the top of the neckline, fold down, so you don't use a neck band for it. That's kind of what drew me to working on this pattern, because I've had a little issues with doing knits and the neck bands and some stretching and wonkiness. So I thought, oh, that'll be kind of nice not to have to do that. And so you fold it down once, and then the instructions call for using a knit double needle on your sewing machine to stitch that down. And so right when I started to do that, I broke my needle, and I had 2 of them. I broke the other one like a week or 2 ago, and I didn't realize why I broke it at the time. I broke it and I just used the other one. And I realized that the reason why I broke it is because when I'm using my walking foot, if that stitch is all the way in the left-hand position, it's just a little bit, the walking foot, the hole in this where the needle goes down, it's just a little too small for it. So it's the left needle hit the walking foot and broke. So anyway, I know that now, but I could not find a stitch double needle to the few different places that I tried to find it at locally. So I ended up having to order from Amazon, and that took a couple days. So they came this morning. I bought a few of them, and I got started making it, and I just kept going. And so I actually really like this. This is definitely not done perfectly. This fabric itself seemed a little fragile. I noticed when I was cutting out the pattern pieces that there were some holes in the material, like kind of partway, not like right on the edge, but like partway in the center because I was folding the fabric over to cut the pieces. So there's a front, a back, and then the 2 sleeves. So all of those were cut on the fold, and there were holes in part of the fabric, so I couldn't use that. But I had enough. I had purchased 2 yards of this, and I think I have about a yard left. I think this took about a yard, maybe a little more. So not enough to because I was thinking, I would love to make like a little pair of lounge pants or something to go with this, but I don't have enough for that. I may have enough for like some little pajama shorts. So we'll see, but this fabric is lovely. It's super soft. I will include a link to the fabric that I purchased. So yeah, it was from a store on Etsy. I don't know if they have a website or not, but I bought a few fabrics from them. But yeah, super soft, really drapey. I did have issues. So using my sewing machine with knits, I have issues. I did better with this one, but then when I was going back and trying to do some adjustments, I kind of jacked things up a little bit. This top is definitely very oversized for me. It's not like a silhouette that I go with. I tend to have like a more fitted top, like fitted in the waist. But I think for like just lounging around the house, I think it's quite lovely, very comfortable. It has just like a drop sleeve, so a boat neck drop sleeve. It's very simple and fast to make when you're not breaking needles and doing other stupid stuff like I do. I think if I could use the serger on this material for the whole thing, that would be the way to go for me. Anyway, I think if you haven't tried this pattern before, give it a whirl. It's free. And the instructions are really quite simple. I think that there are videos on YouTube too if you don't find that, you find the instructions a little lacking. But I mean, for the most part, it was very fun and should have been very quick. So I think this is another one where I will probably make more of them, and I may just adjust the fit here in the torso area and the length as well. The sleeves are very long on me, as well as where the hem is. So I think when I was sewing the hem's on the sleeves and on the bottom, I really didn't do a good job of that. But I can just cut that off, and there's plenty of room to rehem those and make it look a lot better. So the final make was this cute little top here. This is the Collins dress and top from Friday Pattern Company. So another Friday Pattern Company pattern. I do actually I've purchased a lot of Friday Pattern Company patterns. And so whether I've made them before or not, I haven't made all of the ones that I've purchased, but I've been kind of slowly working my way. Like, for example, this jumpsuit I purchased, I think last year, and I was just now finally making it. The Collins dress and top, I made this a couple of weeks ago as the dress. It turned out like really, really good. I was very happy with it, especially because I had gone off script with the fabric, and I have a video walking through that make if you're interested. So a couple days later, I thought, let me make a top. So I did that. I have this cute little sage green rib net knit and fabric, and everything was the same with it. So I had on the dress, I had graded from a medium to a large based on my measurements within the pattern, and I've done that with some of their other patterns too. Actually, I did that on this jumpsuit as well, if I didn't mention that before. But I think that still works. I did run into one little issue when I was sewing the armhole. So what you do on this one, there's the front and back piece, the outer front and back piece, and then there's a shelf bra inside, which acts like a partial lining. So that's this here, if you can see that. And when I was sewing, so you sew the top part together, and then you go through and you do the cool burrito method to get a nice clean finish for the armholes. And when I was doing the armholes, so I was sewing those on the sewing machine, and I accidentally had my needle over in a different spot than normal. So the seam allowance, rather than being 3/8, I think it was supposed to be 3/8, it ended up being a wider seam allowance. So it caused the armholes to be quite cinched in quite a bit, to where it's not as comfortable as the dress. And I think if I had sewn it with the correct seam allowance, it would have been fine. It's still wearable. It's still very cute. I wore this out with the little pink floral Sabrina skirt from Seamwork that I made at the beginning of the 90-day Handmade Wardrobe Challenge. I wore that out. So it's fall, but I wore that. I was doing something, I was wearing it in the house, and I realized, oh, I have an appointment, and I kind of had to rush off. So I was wearing that, wore that out to my appointment, and I got several compliments while I was out. I thought that was kind of funny. I think in part because it's fall and I'm wearing this like very spring looking outfit, but I liked that the green of the top went so nicely with that skirt. So something I could, pair it with that I never really had thought I was going to do. So anyway, so those were my 3 makes, my 3 recent makes, and I think they all turned out pretty nicely. There can be adjustments here and there, but I think overall I'm very happy with them. I've got other plans that I'll share next. So if my calculations are correct, I have 4 more weeks of the 90-day Handmade Wardrobe Challenge. And as I alluded to earlier, I am going to continue on this sewing journey. I am having kind of a blast in my sewing room and just spending probably way too much time in here. I have to actually force myself to leave the house when I really get going, or at least make myself present in the rest of the house, and doing the things I should be doing, like spending time with my husband and cooking dinner and chores and stuff. I can easily get a little tunnel vision being in here, and kind of, I feel like I'm playing in a lot of ways, but it's been very, very fun. And I would say I love sewing, and I love making garments. So I will continue that. I think for the next 4 weeks, the things I would like to accomplish would be definitely a pair of pants. Might be those Persephone pants that I talked about earlier. I have some black denim. I have actually a lot of black denim. I have some light blue denim, which is very stiff, that I've washed a couple times. So those will be, if I end up using that, that'll be something that I'm just that'll hopefully will get more comfortable as it gets washed more. And so I've got those two materials that I have plenty of that I could go and make those pants with. And I would need to adjust the pattern a little bit before I continue forth on that. The shorts that I made with that pattern, I used the button fly that comes with the pattern, but at the time when I purchased it, they also had a fly zip alternative, and I did buy that as well. And when I was going through my patterns, I have all the patterns electronically on my computer, and I keep pointing over here because my computer's sitting there mocking me. But thinking I might try to do the zipper fly. We'll see, because I actually really like making buttons and buttonholes. It's like a nerdy thing I love doing. But I was finding on the shorts themselves that the buttons I used and the buttonhole, a couple of them kept slipping out. And maybe because maybe the buttonhole just needed to be a little bit tighter or a little bit smaller. Not totally sure on that, but I thought, well, maybe if I had done a zipper, I wouldn't be having that issue, obviously. So anyway, that's one thought there. So pair of pants, and then I'm gonna make some pajamas. And I have this thought. So there's a company called Matchy Matchy, and they have a lot of really cute elastic waist pants and shorts, and they show them in all these different cute cottons with, in different patterns and things. And I think what I would like to try to do as much as possible is use for my stash, and then the other scraps that I've been accumulating from the 90-day Handmade Wardrobe Challenge, and I'd like to make pajamas that somehow are mismatched but matchy, if that makes any sense, possibly using some of the patterns there. I do have a pair of pajamas that are my by far most worn makes, or my most worn make me made makes, and those are the Clark pajamas from Seamwork. I made those thinking they're about 2 years ago, and it was my first successful knit garment. So there was a little tank top and a little pair of shorts, and I wear those all the time. And I tend to I run very warm at night. Like I'll start off cold and be all bundled up, and then as the night goes on, I'm like taking things off, and sometimes even having to change into something smaller. So I like a tank top and shorts, or a lightweight pair of pants. I like elastic waist pants for pajamas. And given that, in doing this this knit top and it being so soft, and I have some more of this fabric in other colors, I might try and incorporate that into it as well. So anyway, I was thinking maybe some tank tops woven in knits, maybe short sleeves, a little button-up one, and some different shorts. I think that's probably a little ambitious. I'd like a robe or two too. I have 2 robes. One I wear all the time, and even though it's not perfect, it's a little bit short, but I would like to kind of improve upon my pajama game. And I'm thinking maybe I can do that in the next 4 weeks. In addition to, so I mentioned a robe, that could also be a cardigan. I would like a cardigan or 2 that I can wear around the house, but also looks nice wearing outside of the house. And I I have looked at. I believe it's the Onyx cardigan from Closet Core. It's one of their crew patterns, which is their membership group of patterns. So I don't remember when that pattern was released, but I don't know if like you join crew now, if you can get that pattern or not. But I joined their Closet Core crew. It was like Black Friday 2024, so just not even quite a year. And when I did it, I thought actually some of their other non-crew patterns were included in that, and that's not the case. So that was my mistake. But I had just purchased it on their Black Friday deal for the year, and so there's been a lot of really nice patterns included in that. And so that cardigan, it's kind of, it looks simple, but you can do a shorter version or a really long version. And I think the really long one is quite dramatic. I have some kind of fun fabric in my stash that I'd like to possibly try with that. And then I know Seamwork has a number of really nice patterns too. Pattern Scout has a cute, shorter kind of jacket / cardigan that I saw. I've never made one of her patterns before, but I thought that was very cute because it looked like you could use different fabrics and make it look completely different, like more of a jacket or more of like a little short cardigan. And so I recently watched this PBS Masterpiece show called Sanditon. It is based off an unfinished novel of Jane Austen, and I have Amazon Prime, so I was able to watch the first season for free with my Prime membership, and then I haven't watched season 2 or 3 because I have to pay for something else for a membership for that. So, but the first season was really good, and their outfits were just lovely. All these, old-fashioned outfits, but something they were wearing. So they were wearing these dresses, but sometimes they were putting these little jackets or short cardigans on. And so I happened to see that Pattern Scout jacket / cardigan, and it reminded me a lot of it. It's not obviously as old-fashioned as that one, but that's why I've had that in my mind, especially for wearing with like the dress version of the Collins pattern. I think I would get more mileage because it's a tank top or sleeveless. I would get more mileage out of that dress in the fall and winter with something like that, or maybe the long cardigan too. Anyway, cardigans are on my mind as well. So pants, pajamas, a cardigan or two. And I think I might be able to do it. So we'll see. Don't hold me to it, please. But I really appreciate you watching this. As I've said, I've been enjoying sewing so much lately, but I have also been enjoying doing this channel, getting to know you guys. I do not have any friends who sew garments. I have a relative who does sewing, but more on the quilting side. And other than that, I don't have anybody I can who really wants to know or listen to all the stuff I have to say about the things I'm sewing. I obviously have friends and family who are always asking, did you make that? Did you make that? And, but I mean, for me to go into detail with them would just bore them to tears, and they probably would never ask again if I had made something. So I really appreciate you being here. I look forward to chatting more about sewing in the coming weeks. Have a great day. Have a great week. Happy sewing. Talk to you later. Bye.